What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we'll be joined by Cyrus Saatsaz from Locked On Warriors to discuss the entirety of the Draymond Green situation, from the initial reports of the altercation at Warriors practice, the leaked video footage, how the Warriors have navigated the situation so far, Draymond Green's press conference, and the Warriors finally taking the floor against the LA Lakers in the aftermath of this entire situation. All of that and more coming up right here in just a moment after a quick message from our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your football betting info and odds this season. Find the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every single game that you can get your hands on. Right now, you can go to BetOnline to take a look at who the odds-on favorites are for this year's NBA championship. Right now, the Golden State Warriors leading the way at plus 575. Got the Boston Celtics at plus 625. The Milwaukee Bucks firmly in third place at plus 700. And then rounding out the top five NBA title favorites, you got the Brooklyn Nets and the LA Clippers both at plus 750 a pop. So for all of that and more, head over to betonline.net to learn more about the trends and action available to you. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Joining us now, courtside from the Bay Area, is Cyrus Saatsaz, host of Locked On Warriors. And Cyrus appears to be in good spirits. We'll see how long that lasts as we kind of navigate all the news that has just been plaguing the Warriors over this last, week or so. The news that came out midway through last week, there was, a physical altercation in practice with Draymond Green, Jordan Poole. The initial reports kind of coming out, a lot of people trying to downplay the situation, the severity of it all. And then Friday is when the storm really started, where the leaked video footage comes out and we see just how physical this altercation really was, with Draymond Green loading back and throwing a punch at Jordan Poole. So, Cyrus, first off, what was your initial reaction to the news? And then how did the leaked footage make you reassess the overall situation?
Before the leaked footage, I thought it was an open and shut case. I like Hall of Famer Rick Barry, who I do a lot of work with. Like, he said he's never seen a punch in his life in a practice, but then you get different perspectives. Chris Childs, former New York Knick and Raptor, he said he's seen it a bunch. Kwame Brown came out and said he's seen it a bunch. So it just depends on your perspective. Like Steve Kerr said, in 32 years being in the NBA as a player and coach, he's seen 20 plus punches thrown during practice. So when you hear that stuff, it's like, all right. So it's
what Steve forgot to mention is all 20 of them were thrown by Michael. No, I'm kidding.
But so, when you hear that, it's not really out of the norm. But then you see that video, which is just ugly. It looks awful. And look, right now, I feel like I normally have a good finger on the pulse of the Warriors. I'm lucky to have decent amount of connections with this team, and no one knows what's going to happen. That's the craziest part. I've not really experienced this before, where it's a complete mystery. No one can really instinctively tell you what's going to happen. It's almost like it's a 50-50 shot. Either Draymond will get through this, and the team will forgive him. The public, I've never seen Dub Nation this upset with him. Like, there's a lot of members of Dub Nation who are just done with him. A lot. It is not a small number. I'm curious to know if they took a poll, like what percentage would say, let's move on. I mean, because that was just a horrible look. I mean, that was a really hard punch that I think Jordan Poole was very lucky in not suffering a serious injury from. So we're going to find out a lot more in a week or in this next week, because either Draymond Green will either be traded or just waived. I mean, that's even a possibility too. I don't think that's going to happen though, but this is definitely the beginning of the end, and it makes it a lot easier for the Warriors to cut ties, given Draymond has peaked. That back injury of his is serious. It's not something that's ever just going to go away. We've seen a regression between measurables, between the fact that he had like 3 legitimately bad NBA Finals games last year, where you don't normally see that from Draymond. So you're seeing signs of a drop off in his play. He's still a premier defender, premier player, but he's not the same that he was. Ultimately, I think what this comes down to is going to be Stephen Curry, who's always had his back the most. And this is the first time Steph has ever not been like enthusiastically, positively getting Draymond's back. Usually, like, he's first to be in defense of his longtime teammate. Draymond's like a security blanket for him. This time, he's just kind of, you could tell he's agitated. He's not saying much. So if Steph decides that it's time to move on, I think he's gone. But if Steph continues to defend him, it remains to be seen. But it's just ugly, man. There's just no way to spin it. And what really mars this the most, and I'm sorry to be long-winded here, I'll finish up with this. The Warriors' first game is October 18th, which is just around the corner. It's really crazy. It's a week from Tuesday, and it's ring night. And this was supposed to be like a really celebratory moment. Draymond Green is a vital part of this dynasty. He's been there for all the 4 championships. And now, I mean, I feel like common sense would dictate you suspend him, given for what he did. But how do you suspend him and have him not be a part of ring night? It's weird, man. I don't know what to tell you about it. I don't think anyone knows right now, especially those who are outside of the locker room. Kevon Looney came out and said he has not spoken to Draymond Green yet personally. And he's also said that Draymond will have to earn the trust back of the team. And these are words that you've never heard before. Draymond has gotten in trouble before, but you've never heard his teammates come out publicly and say they've lost trust in him. So we'll see, man.
How concerning is it when you're thinking about the video footage, right? That this had to have been something that there was some buildup here, right? There had to have been some words being thrown back and forth, all that kind of stuff, and it really didn't. Nobody made an attempt to really stop Draymond, right? In the lead up to it, there was some buildup, and I know it happened very, very quickly, right? Draymond walks over to Poole shoves him away, and then Draymond loads up the punch. But just in all of that, right? I don't know if maybe other guys had just tuned him out, but they were very clearly like going back and forth verbally in the buildup to that moment.
Yeah, and that's one thing that Draymond complained about is that the audio of the recording wasn't included in the league, which seemed to imply that maybe like if you had heard it, it wouldn't seem as bad. But whatever. Ron Adams was the only one that seemed to be fully aware of what was going on because you saw him tailing Draymond as Draymond was walking over to Jordan Poole. But look, Jordan Poole and Draymond, they're both like really type A vocal leaders of the team. They've butted heads before, but they've also both expressed admiration for each other. I will tell you this though. I've had sources tell me that behind the scenes, Jordan Poole has not forgiven Draymond. They haven't spoken, and they're not. He's not happy. I mean, I don't know how you could be. It's a horrible look. It was. The image of it is awful. It's borderline demasculating. So I don't know, man. This is just one of those things. I rarely say I don't know to you or to anyone. When it comes to the Warriors, I don't know what's going to happen here. It's not a good look. But I'll tell you this, the Warriors are very happy with their youngsters who at some point are going to replace Draymond. And I'm referring more specifically to Jonathan Kuminga and James Wiseman. And maybe their time is just going to have to get accelerated in terms of taking over that role. I don't know, man.
I do want to hear a little bit about Wiseman and Kuminga, just, as we, in a moment, though, as we're kind of navigating the Draymond situation. This is the other part of this whole story, Cyrus, is what do you make of the people who are kind of villainizing the individual who leaked the practice footage? Because it seems like there's a divide there, too, where some people are like, well, no, it was great that he leaked the footage because now we actually know what happened. And then there are others who are just like, man, like, we got to keep that stuff in house, like, because, again, everything that we saw before the video footage was leaked was trying to kind of put a hush on this. And really, right. Even Andre Iguodala coming out and saying, oh, it wasn't serious. Like, it was nothing. So, what do you think about people kind of using him or her, whoever leaked the footage, and kind of villainizing that person?
I think it's justified, just in the sense that I think regardless of the organization, you don't want your security to be compromised. Those practice videos are very esoteric, meaning they're not supposed to be seen by the public. They're used primarily for coaches to monitor players in practice, to evaluate them, to maybe see who's snoozing and not giving their all, because it covers all angles of the court. One very interesting thing in this, I don't even know if I'm supposed to really say this publicly, but I guess it should be okay, I hope, is that it isn't just the Warriors that have access to that video. The NBA also has access to that video. So there's a very strong possibility. Yeah, apparently, this is not a well-known thing, but apparently, like, the network that these videos are on are streamed to the network, to the NBA offices, I'm sorry. So it's very possible the leak came from there. But regardless, I know, which is crazy, but regardless, I don't blame the Warriors players and the coaches for being upset about the leak, because you do want to keep these things in house, and you do want to have trust in your organization. I mean, look at this whole building right here. I mean, this is supposed to be like, an organization. The Warriors advertise themselves as being a family, and all of a sudden now there are trust issues. So, never mind the fact that the punch was ugly. Never mind the fact that maybe it should have gotten out. I still maintain that you do want to have some control over the information that leaks out of the building. It's just not a good look. It's not a good look, I don't think, for anyone involved. And it doesn't change the fact that what Draymond did is horrendous. But at the same time, you can have two different issues here. And that one being Draymond Green did a horrible thing, and who knows what's going to come of this. And then you could also have, at the same time, say, it's not good to have your organization have members within it that you can't trust. But there's also a possibility that you can't trust everyone, because, again, what I just learned is that the NBA also has access to these videos. So there is a possibility that the leak came from there.
Now, Draymond Green did have his press conference to kind of address the media after this entire situation. We learned that he'd be taking some time away from the team, distancing himself, whatnot. And to me, in everything that I read and heard about the presser, it seemed like Draymond very much owned up to the situation. What was your read? How do you think Draymond kind of handled himself during that presser, addressing everything, in a formal aspect?
I think he said the right things. He did seem contrite. He apologized. I think he did everything he could initially. But this is telling of something bigger. I mean, if there wasn't a track record of this, I think forgiving him would be a lot easier. But he's had anger issues over the years. He's had control issues in terms of his emotions over the years. The why of that is a mystery. I mean, I don't know if it's something medical. I don't know if it's ego. Who knows? But it's fairly obvious now and evident that he crossed a very serious line. And and when you look at bigger picture, it's like, okay, let's say the Warriors decide we're done, we're going to move on. Like, is it okay for another team to add him? Like, are we forgiving him if he starts afresh with a new team? I mean, like how long should the punishment go? I mean, is this like a crime that we should hold over his head for the rest of his career? I mean, is there a certain point where we forgive him? I don't know. I do think he said the right things. I think ultimately it comes down to whether or not Jordan Poole is going to forgive him. That's really the biggest part here. Is how does Jordan Poole feel about this right now? What I've heard is that he's not happy, but that doesn't mean he won't forgive him. But if Jordan Poole decides, you know what, I don't want to forgive him for this. This was a horrible thing he did to me. I think you have to support Jordan Poole, and you have to kind of move on from Draymond Green at that point. I don't see how you can think otherwise. I mean, what Draymond Green was literally assault. It was literally assault. I know this happens in pro sports a lot. There's a lot of testosterone going on with these massive, physical specimens that are professional athletes. But this doesn't happen regularly for a reason. For a reason either. And if Jordan Poole decides, because he's on the verge of a huge contract extension as well, he's the future of the Warriors. And if he decides, I don't want to play with Draymond Green anymore, they're going to have to move on. They're going to have to. I don't see any other way of this moving forward.
All right, Cyrus, last thing that I got for you here. The Warriors, they finally took the court after all of dealing with all this drama through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, through the weekend. They took the court preseason game against the LA Lakers. They wound up losing 124-121 in this game. How did they look though when they took the court? What were the kind of the feelings, the emotions after the game? How many of the questions were just all still centered on the Draymond stuff? Is it still? I mean, obviously it's probably still lingering on everybody's minds. But how did Jordan Poole look taking the court? In all, how did the Warriors kind of feel out there? Did they look themselves?
They absolutely did. I thought they looked fantastic. Jordan Poole had a great game. I don't know if you're aware of this, Jackson. Did you know that they give out an award for having the highest free throw percentage in the NBA the previous year?
I did not know that.
I think it's a new thing. They did it during the pregame ceremony. Stephen Curry gave it to Jordan Poole. It's a trophy. I think they have awards like this in hockey for like the most points scored in a season. So there's a trophy now. There's a trophy. I still don't know what the formal name of it is. It's the highest free throw percentage trophy. So Jordan Poole got that before the game. Again, I never heard of it in my life, but then Jordan Poole had a fantastic game, man. I mean, You could tell. So I think he got hit in the right eye because you could tell that it looked a little discolored there. But he doesn't look bad. He performed great. I thought James Wiseman played phenomenally. I thought Jonathan Kuminga played phenomenally. The only thing the Warriors did bad in this game and losing their first preseason game of the preseason, sorry to be redundant, is that their defense was horrible. They gave up 124 points. If anything, I thought the Lakers looked good. Lonnie Walker, the fourth, looked good. I forgot the name of the rookie they drafted, their rare draft pick. He looked good. The Lakers look great. Anthony Davis ate them up, and I don't think that had anything to do with bad defense from the Warriors. I think Anthony Davis just looked like, one of the NBA's top 75 players. But the Warriors look good. I mean, I was paying attention to that. There were not a lot of questions geared toward the topic of Draymond Green. Steve Kerr was not asked any questions about it. Neither was DiVincenzo or James Wiseman. Looney was asked one question about it, and that's when Looney said that they have not spoken, and he referenced that trust was broken, and which again you don't hear. I've never heard that before. So, I think that the teams sent a pretty clear message. We don't want to talk about this, so reporters are being cognizant of that. But it's lingering, man. It is lingering, and ring night is going to be very fascinating because if Draymond Green plays, is this arena going to boo him? I don't know. We're find out and see. That's all I can say about that.
Oh, man. How will the Warriors navigate this entire situation? Will they ultimately be forced to choose between Draymond Green and Jordan Poole? Of course, you'll have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Warriors. Cyrus, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Love you, man. Thanks.